Money does funny things to people. How many times have we known someone that we thought they were just jolly people, they were nice people, they were good old boys and girls, and all of a sudden they came into a lot of money and it seemed like they changed, you know? What did money do to them? In later years, I began to get a little different view of that. I began to think that money doesn't change people, but I think if the person has a lot of money, sometimes it allows them to lower their guard a little bit, and we finally see the person that's always been there. And that seems to be more my observation of late. But be that as it may, I think money has a bad rap. There are people who preach against money. They tell us that money is the root of all evil. You know? And I thought that was a pretty good idea because I saw so many people with a lot of money that I thought were pretty evil people. They were ruthless, they were inconsiderate, they lorded it over those who did not have financial resources. They were just generally evil people, I thought. And then again, as I got older, I began to mellow with my views, and I began to think that money is not the root of all evil, but evil people are the root of all evil. And that a person can use money for good or evil, depending on the character that they have. And it just makes sense after a while, because you realize when you think about it that money is nothing but a measure of the ability that we have, our ability to commend the services of others. That's all it is. And we can use that ability for good or evil. We can get people to do little chores for us if we have the money, little nice benign things that make life easier for us. Put new carpeting on our floors, paint our walls, and that kind of stuff. Or we can use money for evil purposes. We can hire corrupt lawyers or politicians and use their skills to steal the assets and the savings of others. Or, if we wanted to, we could use our money to do good things. We could feed the hungry. We could house those that have no housing. We could educate people. One of my dreams is someday to have something we call the Freedom Academy, which has already started, but it's in very, very early stages. But someday to see it grow to the point where we could teach young people on the very topics that we'll be discussing today. Because, in fact, one of the offline titles for this seminar today that I like to think about that we might use someday, this would be a course on money, a high school course on money, for those of us who missed it in high school, which is most of us. None of the material that I'll be covering today is anything that I learned in high school or college. But anyway, I want to speak in defense of money because money gives us the ability to acquire things that we need. You know, they say the best things in life are free, and that's probably true. You know, health and happiness and nature. But the next best things cost money. I mean, to support our family, for example, to educate our children, to improve ourselves. That costs money. And even, I've noticed that even the preachers who give sermons on money being the root of all evil, when they're through with their sermon, they pass the hat. Yeah. So I'm kind of filling in on time because we're not supposed to start until another 2 or 3 minutes, but I thought I would give a chance for the latecomers to come in, but I didn't want to waste your time. I wanted to just give you a little bit of my philosophy about money, and so that's what I've done. Is there anybody here that would not like more money in their lives? I didn't think so. Well, the structure of the day is pretty simple and logical. We actually have 5 parts to this seminar. As you know, it's called a crash course on money, and the word crash is used with a double meaning. The crash course meaning usually, as it does, a condensed and rapid course to cover a lot of material quickly. And we're definitely going to be doing that. And then, of course, we're focusing on the crash economy, and the focus is how do we survive that kind of an economic crash. So the The components are really 4 parts of the seminar plus a bonus presentation by Pinnacle Properties, which will be, as you know already, it's our sponsor, and they will be talking about a particular and most unique type of real estate investment in foreclosed properties. And I'll introduce that later, but that's it's the 5th part, but it's not really part of the seminar. The seminar itself is divided into 4 parts, and the first part is should properly be described as money fundamentals and basic principles, and the second part will be current events and the consequences of those current events, the inevitable consequences of them. The third part will be a short-term strategy for protecting ourselves in this crisis, this coming perfect storm. And the fourth part will be a long-term strategy for protecting our children and our grandchildren, which I think any presentation on money and the economic system and the political and social system that doesn't include that long view is terribly deficient. So I'll be talking about that. And then, of course, at the very end of it, we'll have time for questions and answers. So let's begin now with the main part of the first segment, which is money fundamentals and basic principles. And I've already told you the tentative title I'd like to use someday is a high school course on money for those who missed it in high school, because most of us did. It's going to move along pretty fast, and much of this material that I will be covering is already in the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, in that one section called A Crash Course on Money. But I think in order to make this presentation complete, we need at least a review of the fundamentals, because otherwise, if we're not on the same page regarding at least my assumptions of what the fundamental principles are, then we'll be disconnected later on when we talk about the consequences of current events. So the first question that comes to mind is the all-famous question of what is money? And it's amazing to me when I was beginning this research to discover that there is no uniform agreement on that topic. The first thing I did was to get the dictionaries out and get the encyclopedias out. And well, let's get on track with this. So when I'm talking about money, I'm using the right definition in my mind. And lo and behold, I found out that most of the definitions in the dictionaries and in the encyclopedias, although they had certain commonalities to them, nevertheless, they were each somewhat different. And I thought, well, all right, that's sort of an academic approach to it. Surely the bankers will know what money is. So then I was reading some of the proceedings of these banking conferences, and I was reading some of the white papers put out by the people at the Federal Reserve. And lo and behold, they didn't understand what, at least they didn't agree with each other as to what money was. And finally I thought, well, surely I'll find a good definition of money at the conferences held by the gold bugs, the people that really, were staunch supporters of gold and silver behind the money system. Surely they are students of this topic. Well, you know where I'm going with this. Nobody agreed on what money was. So I decided that if I was going to talk about this or write about this, I had to have a definition. So I kind of created my own. And that's what I'll be working with. I'm going to tell you what my definition of money is, and you don't have to agree with it. I just want you to know what mine is, so that when I'm talking about money, at least you understand where I'm coming from. And the way I've looked at it after studying the topic for quite a while is that there are 4 different kinds of money, and that's the problem right there, is that all of the pundits on this topic were trying to come up with one definition that covered them all adequately, and that's impossible, because as I understand this history, there are actually 4 different kinds of money, and the only common definition that you can water down so that it covers all of these 4 different kinds of money is a very simple one, which is that money is a medium of exchange. Now, if you just stop there, you've really got a definition of money that applies to all of these 4 different categories. But a medium of exchange doesn't tell you an awful lot about the quality of these different types of money. The active word there is medium. It's a medium of exchange. It's not the exchange itself. The exchange itself would be barter, and that's kind of a